Now we also, by clicking on that, we can rotate our image around, should we choose. We went through adjustments last time. I'm going to go through the inspector in just a moment. We also have our color wheel here that we can work with. And there are a couple different options. You notice we still have our palette that's available. And it's actually going to be static, so if I open pages, these colors would still be available. We can go over here to the slider and choose different sliders. I don't tend to work in this area too much. And we can also choose this palette right here, as well as the spectrum. And one of my favorites is the crayon palette, which I think is pretty cool. So we can play with that. Usually what I'll do is I'll pick a color in here and then move over to the color wheel and do some fine tuning. So for instance, I can just make it lighter and darker by dragging this. So we're going to close that. And here's our fonts palette right here. And something I should have mentioned last time and didn't. If we grab this little dot right here, it's very subtle, and pull down, we can then get a preview of the font. So I'm going to make this window bigger. And then as I choose different fonts, you can see up here that it gives us a preview. So you don't have to highlight text, which is what I see a lot of people do to try and see what's going on. You can just go like that. Okay, and here are the web safe fonts. If we were using a different application than iWeb, which is actually going to render your fonts like a graphic, so it won't matter, you'd want to stick with some web safe fonts. But as far as iWeb goes, not a big deal. So I'll go ahead and close our fonts. Well, actually, no. Let's talk about one last thing. One of my favorite things. Go ahead and uncheck that image. We'll highlight this text right here. And there's a slider right here that Apple came out with a few years ago. And as we move this, if I remember right, in fact it came out in the first version of Pages, but I'm not positive. But we can move this to change the size of our text. And we can use that to fill up our column if we want. Just like that. Or to make it smaller. So we can really fine-tune things instead of typing in a font size and seeing if that works. So you can just move the slider up and down. And that's a real lifesaver. So that's our fonts palette. And we've already gone through our media palette. But let's talk about our inspector for a moment. So we have the page inspector right here. And it gives me the opportunity to change the page name if I want, just by clicking and typing it in. Or I can click over here on About Me and hit the return key and change the name. We can also change the site name. So I click there, I'm going to hit the return key. I'm going to type in live with, let's capitalize that, and hit the return key. So that's our site name now. And we can change that. We have welcome. And it's important to remember the name of your page is going to be what appears up here. So if I change this just to About, I'm going to delete the Me. Click my mouse and we go up top. Now it says About instead of About Me. And that's important to keep in mind because if you choose a real long name for your page, it's going to take up a lot of space up here. And that can be difficult. So photo sharing we're actually going to get into pretty quick, as well as slideshow. So I'm not going to get into that too far. As well as blog, the RSS, we're going to talk about when we create a blog page and a podcast page. Text we did last time. And our graphic inspector I think we went over pretty well. The only thing I forgot to mention, let's click on our image here, is when we talk about the shadow, which we can add, we can change the color. So it almost becomes more of a glow than a shadow. So you can see this is all magenta down here. And we can adjust the offset of the shadow. See how it seems like the page is, or the photo is pulling away from the page. We can adjust the blur, so it softens the shadow. And we can even adjust the opacity of the shadow. So now I'm making it stronger. I'm going to bring it down and that makes it weaker. I'm going to undo shadow because it doesn't really, especially the magenta, doesn't work with that image. And we have our metrics inspector that we talked about last time. Our link inspector, something we're going to talk about pretty soon because we're going to make a few links. And we have our QuickTime inspector that we'll get into when we add a movie. But I just want to give an overview right now because this is kind of let us know what the interface is like when we go to play. Why don't we go ahead and do something I'm pretty excited about, which is go and get a graphic from another theme and add it to this one. So you notice, for instance, on our welcome page, this background graphic is actually from the comic book theme that I went and borrowed, let's say. So we can mix and match back and forth with all of our themes, which is cool. And it adds more life to this page than just having the white, in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and hide Safari. That's Command H. And click on Go, and I'm going to choose Applications. The other way I could do is Command Shift A. I hit the I on the keyboard. Okay, so I'm going to go to iWeb, and I'm going to Control click or right click depending on the type of mouse you're using, and choose Show Package Contents. I'm going to double click on Contents, and I go to Resources right here. And I've already scrolled down here to save us time, but we would keep on scrolling and scrolling. You can see we're down near the bottom here to Themes. Double click on that. And then, for instance, we can just grab this cloud. You know what? Let's go with the Fine Line theme. Now we can go Elegant. I like Elegant. And I right click again, Show Package Contents again. And luckily this is a little shorter. We go to Shared. And then we can see all the graphics that are in the movie. So here are the pictures that we can see from the theme. We keep on scrolling down, and this is our background image. Here's some more of the photos. Here's the demo movies. We can see a lot of different graphics we have in here to play with. The header and the footer. All this. But in this case, let's just grab this cloth. And I'm going to option click. The other thing you can do is, instead of looking at it, we can just click on it once and do Command D. And that duplicates it. And I'm going to drag it to my desktop. Just in case we want to come back here, I'm going to, well, I'll close this one, but I'll minimize this page. And we'll close this one. We'll bring iWeb back up, and we'll click on Layout here. And for browser background, I'm going to choose Image Fill. It's going to be our Cloth 3 copy, and click on Open. So there we go. I don't like this one as much as the comic book theme, because I think that adds a lot of pop to it, but other people might like this better. It really depends on what you, the kind of presentation you want to make. But that really will change your website a lot, and will make your website much different than everybody else's iWeb website. Just that simple.